I'm Linda Cohn.
And I'm Chuck Charmelsons.
And this is Duck Center.
My goodness, that is some video.
That was, I mean, as much as I love the Ducks, I just feel that they might have one of the worst marketing teams in the NHL or in all of sports.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, that's pretty bad. That
video is Exhibit A, among others. Ryan Kesler walking around naked in the office. I think there was another one with Kesler at one point. You know, the only time I remember them being good, the Ducks probably weren't involved in this, but you remember that old video, I think it was at the NHL Awards, where it was Bobby Ryan, I think Ryan Getzlaf and Scotty Niedermayer after the Olympics, and they had the video where, like, Bobby and Getzlaf were doing things around the center, and he kept calling him Silver. That was funny. Yeah. That was the last time I remember that, but I feel like they probably weren't involved. That was like, the NHL's like, we got this. Like, you guys...
I'm surprised that you remember that, man, because you were like 6 years old.
Oh yeah, I've seen the video after the fact. I think I might have seen. No, that wasn't that. Come on, that was like I was at least like 12.
Yeah, because it was 2010, so you're probably a little older than 12. I'm just giving you a hard time.
No, but I mean that was the last time I remember like one of their videos being funny. But like knowing the NHL, they're probably like, yeah, take a seat, guys. We'll handle it from here.
It's I don't know what to say other than I was extremely disappointed with that was their giant result. And sorry I didn't pop right in after you were done with that. I wasn't sure if you were going to play another part of that clip.
I couldn't take it. But I was like, can't do it.
I was like, is there more? Is there more? Like, really?
Yeah, there was going to be, but it's like, how much of that video can you take? Because I was already trying to line up like the perfect clip, so I had to listen to it like, I don't know, 5 or 6 times. I was like, yeah, this is enough. I can't take it anymore. I mean, we'll get into that more later because I think we both kind of want to go a bit in depth on how awful that video was.
To talk about what we expected because I didn't expect that. So, but let's save that for a little bit later. We got a lot on the show today. It's good to be back. For those of you tuning in and downloading the show, or if you're live, that's even more on you to spend your Sunday night listening to us babble about our favorite team. But we got the draft to cover and several other things. The Ducks got their picks in. We have a special guest. Cam Robinson joined us with an interview. Eddie was able to interview him and take care of business there. He's got some good insight, so we'll talk with him. And then a few things around the NHL, and then some more marketing team bashing. But let's go ahead and kick the intro there.
Get by Benning. Darnell Nurse left it in the corner, gets up center. Perry scoops. Corey Perry.
Lilia able to shake away from Solani. It's given away to Solani around in front. Score! Teemu Solani with the steal. Perry in the face, 1-1. Score! Off the floor! On the board! Paul Kariya!
I do have to mention, too, that we actually might have to shuffle the show on the fly because we might have another special guest coming on the show. Isac Lundestrom, the Ducks' first-round pick on the 22nd, might be joining us on the show. He's spending the night with family, so he's going to see how that goes, and if he has time, he'll be giving us a call later tonight. That, like I said, that might fall during the show, so if we have to reshuffle things around, we'll make it work for him.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. But hey, I mean, first off, you got to give me a shout out, man. I didn't miss the intro today.
Yeah, so the streak is broken. Where I think it was like running the last 4 shows where we missed it, and now we're good. So hopefully we can put a little streak together. I mean, you do have in giant red letters, like put the intro, like put it up there. So
I put an expletive on there. I know we're trying to keep the show kid friendly for those who listen to us with the kids around, but. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that in 24-point bold red font that I wasn't able to miss it, even though I did it last time and missed it. Do you want to talk briefly about these picks or we hop into the interview, or you just want to let Cam roll with it?
Yeah, I think we can briefly talk about it. because we did talk with Steve on the preview and some of these guys. Well, I think only Lundstrom's name came up because we didn't go too far down the line. But yeah, let's talk about them a bit, and we'll talk about the guy first that was the Ducks first round pick on the 22nd, and a guy that, like I said, might be coming on the show today, and Isac Lundestrom. And I liked the pick. I know a lot of people, because Joe Veleno was falling on draft day, and he was still there when the Ducks were drafting. I know a lot of people wanted him to go there. I was a big fan, and as Cam says in the interview later, of Dominic Bach, who was available, ended up going 2 picks later to St. Louis. But you know, we even said with Steve that the Ducks need to draft centers, right? I mean, they needed to take some centers in this draft, and why not take one of the best centers in the draft with your first pick?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that he's going to be the number one center, right? Like, he's not. This was not a center-heavy draft, no. But the Ducks did good on getting a guy who's basically a good two-way center, and he has some skill in his game. Obviously, they didn't pick till the 23rd, so you're not getting a top-end talent. But I think it's a solid pick for Anaheim.
Yeah, and I got to give them some credit, too, because, I mean, they always do a good job drafting, but they get some flack for not taking a lot of risk. And I think there was only one point in this draft, really, I think, where they could have made a risky move to draft again. That was in the first round if they had taken Dominic Bach over Isac Lundestrom. But you know, when you look at the wingers in the system already, you got Max Jones, Maxime Comtois, you've got Ricard Raquel, you've got Troy Terry's probably going to play on the wing. You've got all these guys coming up on the wing, and maybe you swing for the fences and hope Dominic Bach is a first-line winger, or you play it a little bit safe. You take the best center in the draft, a guy who's going to be a second, third-line center, and show some flashes of offense. I mean, if he gets a bigger role with his team and gets some more consistent offense going, he could be a full-time second-line center, which is a great haul at that point in the draft. I mean, you're not expecting to get first-line centers. I mean, the Ducks drafted Ricard Raquel, 30th overall. He's now a top 6 forward. Sam Steele is going to be a second-line center most likely, and you drafted him 30th overall. So everybody expecting this guy, drafting guys at 23rd to 30 to be a first-line center. I mean, you can't use Getzlaf as an example anymore. I mean, it doesn't happen, and when it does happen, when you get a Getzlaf in a pair at that point, it doesn't happen often. So I mean, you can't be mad at getting a third-line center in the first round. I mean, not every guy in there is going to be a superstar. No,
and you could build around your team other ways. There's this league is I mean, yeah, the centers, those are the big guys, but I mean, you get the right scoring guy around, you play. You could change the style of hockey to be more competitive, but it is tough. I mean, right? You do need a solid center, but I mean, it's tough to find from the draft. I mean, when you're drafted not in the top end, and the Ducks are trying to remain competitive. They have a closing window, so I kind of feel like they got the best option out there, and I think he's going to be a good fit for this team, and maybe take some developing, right? Because he's still a young kid, and he's got to go back to Sweden next year. But he'll be in the Ducks system, sure enough.
Yeah, and again, one more thing on the elite centers, because this is what was the thing that was frustrating me the most the other day. When you look at the elite centers in the game, Sidney Crosby, John Tavares, Steven Stamkos, Nicholas Backstrom just won a Stanley Cup. These guys don't come in later rounds other than Ryan Getzlaf, and there are examples where you get guys in later rounds, but it just doesn't happen anymore. You get them in the top 5. Maybe the top 10 if you get a bit lucky. That's where you get these elite number 1 centers. That's the only place you get them is through the draft. So to think that the Ducks are going to get this guy elite in the first round because they got one before with Ryan Getzlaf, it's not going to happen. I mean, I'm happy with his pick. I believe you're also happy with them getting him at 23. There's a lot of people who had him ranked a little bit higher. There was at times this season where he was, I think, the 3rd best European skater by NHL Central Scouting, which means he was ahead of a lot of guys. I think the only guys he was behind were Rasmus Dahlin, of course, and Adam Buckfist. So I'm happy with it. I can't complain. So let's move away from that. Get on to the second pick here, and Benoit Olivier Groux, who goes by Bo Groux, playing in Halifax with now Anaheim Ducks prospect Antoine Morin. So what did you think of this pick?
Well, I mean, from what I was reading around, he was considered a potentially risky prospect with high reward. So, I mean, when you start getting deeper into the draft, it's kind of like it's an unknown, right? I mean, they can do great in the Q, which is where he was playing, but coming into the AHL, or even you could even tear up the AHL and come into the NHL. But he's a solid player. I know that the other part of him that they're talking about, his downside, is his skating. So he's definitely has some time to get some seasoning. But overall, when you're looking at a pick and you start getting, I mean, what second round, but like how far into the 50s? Overall. Yeah. So I mean, like you were saying, like known commodities that are going to be impactful immediately, or first rarity unless it's a goaltender outside the first round, right? You kind of just have to see what happens as you get down in the draft. But I don't think it was a bad pick at all. He's already a big kid, so let's see what happens when he gets some development.
Yeah, I mean, in the second round, when I'm all for going for a guy, unless there is like a super risky where you might get a guy who could be like a top 20 pick, but there's some question marks around him. If there was a guy like that, then maybe take the risk there. Like say if Ryan Merkley had fell to the second round, maybe then you take a risk on that there because you've already used your first round pick on something safe. But I mean, the Ducks went again the safe option here. Benoit Olivier, he has a safe floor over rather than a risky ceiling. He's a guy who's most likely, no matter what, is going to be at least like a third or a bottom six winger or center in the National Hockey League. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, at least this guy's most likely going to make your team in the future. A little bit farther down the road, but he's got all the intangibles there. Again, just like Lundestrom, he's kind of like a jack-of-all-trades guy. He's good at everything, but he's not exceptional at one thing. And that's, again, where the Ducks got a little bit of criticism. But, I mean, there weren't many other guys that I had there that they should have taken over him. I mean, he was a guy at one point, again, just like Comtois and Morand were last year for the Ducks, that was ranked as a first-round prospect. Fell a little bit throughout the season because the offense just wasn't quite there. I mean, the only guy maybe I would have given a look other than him was Philip Hallander, who went 4 picks after. But there's not a huge difference there, honestly. I mean, he has a very good shot. The offense isn't quite there, and the skating definitely is, I think, his biggest weakness. But he'll be a guy who can come to the league, and I don't like comparing guys, but maybe like a Jordan Staal, a Philip Deneau, Andrew Cogliano in the sense of a great penalty killer without the speed. I feel like that's the type of guy he could be, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that every team needs that type of guy, and I think he'd be an asset. And the only question I think here is if he stays at center or moves to the wing. And he also played on a line. He centered a line with Philip Zadina, who we all know went 6 overall to Detroit. So there's always that question mark around a guy: is he really good? Or is he benefiting from playing with very good players? And the same thing we saw with Dylan Strome when he played in Erie with Connor McDavid, and that hasn't turned out as Arizona would have liked it either. So we'll see. I'm still happy with the pick. There were a lot of people who had him ranked as a late first round, early second round prospect.
Well, I mean, moving on to the third pick, they got Blake McLaughlin. He was somebody that was projected to go much higher as well. And he's got a lot of potential. So people were really surprised that he dipped, but he's definitely a playmaker. He could shoot the puck. He can skate. They were just saying a few things with him. It's just kind of like he needs to maybe be more consistent in his play. From what I was reading about him, I haven't seen any too many highlights of him playing, but he's definitely got the hands and the skating there. So. And you got to be consistent at all levels to be able to get up to the NHL. So we'll see how his development goes. But I know you were high on this pick too.
Oh, I love this pick. This is my favorite pick of the draft for them. When the second round started, I think it was the night before the second round, I put out 4 guys on our Twitter of who the Ducks should target in the second round. And Blake McLaughlin was one of those guys. He ends up falling into the third round, and the Ducks grab him. And it was great. I mean, our boy Steve, we had on our draft preview show, had him ranked 25th. It wasn't like he said before. He didn't do a mock draft, but he ranked it as in the future. Where are these guys going to be based off like how good they are? And he ended up having Blake McLaughlin as number 25. So I mean, there's a lot of bias in all the rankings, but if that pans out, can't complain getting that guy in the third round. And like you said, he's an extremely skilled player. He has a lot of raw offensive talents. Lacks a little bit of strength. He's still a little bit smaller. He's 5'11", 161. So he's definitely going to need to beef up there. Maybe he ends up hitting 6 feet, 180 by the time he makes it to the NHL, which would be perfect. And he's got a lot to prove. He'll be a fun guy to watch because he's going to be in the NCAA next year with the University of Minnesota, which I think we'll really see if he's a really special talent or if he's a typical third-round guy. I think we'll really get to see that next year because NCAA is a whole different animal. You're playing against a lot of older guys. he's going to be a freshman going in there. He's only going to be, I think, 18 or 19 going in, so it'll be interesting to see how he does there.
Well, yeah, and nothing wrong with that either. Nothing wrong with being a depth player. Everybody needs him. He's got hands.